Welcome to Middle East Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Israel says over 450 terrorists employed by UN agency for Palestinians. Israel escalates its criticism of a UN agency in Gaza. It says 450 of its workers are militants. UN says rape likely committed in Hamas attack on Israel. Girl Scouts were told to stop bracelet-making fundraiser for kids in Gaza. Now they can't keep up. Comparing Chinese and Indian energy security strategies in Central Asia. Israel says over 450 terrorists employed by UN agency for Palestinians. South China Morning Post. Israel has accused the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, of employing over 450 terrorists belonging to groups including Hamas. The Israeli military statement also released recordings of a terrorist working as an Arabic teacher at a UNRWA school who is describing his entry into Israeli territory and stating that he is holding female Israeli hostages. UNRWA's Philip Lazzarini has said that Israel has provided no evidence against his former employees. Several countries have suspended funding to UNRWA following the Israeli allegations, though the European Commission has said it will release €50 million of funding. Israel escalates its criticism of a UN agency in Gaza. It says 450 of its workers are militants. The Independent. Israel has accused 450 employees of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, of being members of militant groups in the Gaza Strip. Israel provided no evidence to back up the accusation. Israel has accused 12 UNRWA employees of participating in the October 7 Hamas attacks on Israel. Major international funders have withheld hundreds of millions of dollars from UNRWA since those accusations were made. UNRWA is the largest aid provider in Gaza and employs around 13,000 people. UN says rape likely committed in Hamas attack on Israel. BBC. A UN team led by Pramila Patten, the UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict, has concluded that there are reasonable grounds to believe that sexual violence, including rape and gang rape, was committed by Hamas gunmen during the attacks in Israel on October 7. The team also found convincing information that hostages were subjected to sexual violence. Hamas has denied these allegations. The UN report states that the sexual violence occurred in multiple locations during the attacks, but victims were unwilling to come forward and talk to the team. Girl Scouts were told to stop bracelet-making fundraiser for kids in Gaza. Now they can't keep up. Associated Press. A Missouri Girl Scout troop was ordered to stop selling bracelets to raise funds for children in Gaza and threatened with legal action by regional Scout leaders. The troop, which was made up of girls aged between 10 and 12, had been selling bracelets to raise funds for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. The Girl Scouts of the USA said its Eastern Missouri chapter had only been following fundraising rules but was disappointed and disheartened by the tone of the communication with the troop. A petition signed by more than 100 troop leaders demands that the Girl Scouts of the USA apologize to Troop 149, issue a statement on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and promise that no other troop will get in trouble for fundraising. Comparing Chinese and Indian energy security strategies in Central Asia. Diplomat. China and India are both vying for influence in Central Asia to secure access to oil and gas resources, but China currently holds the upper hand. China's energy strategy in Central Asia focuses on diversifying its energy sources and transit networks. It has constructed pipelines connecting with Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan, allowing it to import oil and gas from these countries. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, and other multilateral initiatives have also helped solidify its regional authority. On the other hand, India's energy strategy in Central Asia has faced obstacles and delays. India has sought to secure reliable energy sources and reduce its dependence on Middle Eastern oil and gas through energy diplomacy with the Central Asian republics. However, political constraints and complicated interstate dynamics have hindered India's pipeline projects in the region. India's overall influence in Central Asia is relatively low compared to China, but its strong diplomatic and political ties with the region cannot be overlooked. The region's energy resources and geopolitical competition will continue to be critical in understanding future energy trends. A UN envoy says there are reasonable grounds to believe Hamas committed sexual violence on October 7. Associated Press. The UN envoy focusing on sexual violence in conflict, Pramila Patten, has stated that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Hamas committed rape, sexualized torture, and other cruel and inhumane treatment of women during its surprise attack in southern Israel on October 7, 2022. In her report, Patten said that there is evidence to suggest that such violence may still be ongoing. The report comes nearly 5 months after the attacks, which left about 1,200 people dead and some 250 others taken hostage. Hamas has rejected earlier allegations of sexual assault. Harris tells top Israeli politician U.S. wants 6-week Gaza ceasefire. The Independent. Vice President Kamala Harris has met with Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz at the White House to discuss the ongoing conflict in Israel. Harris reiterated the Biden administration's call for a 6-week ceasefire and expressed concern about the humanitarian conditions in Gaza. She called on Hamas to accept the terms on the table, which would result in the release of hostages and an immediate ceasefire. Harris also urged Israel to increase the flow of aid to Gaza. The meeting took place less than 24 hours after Harris became the second top U.S. official to call for an immediate ceasefire. America's elite universities are bloated, complacent, and illiberal. Economist. Elite American universities are in danger of losing their competitive edge due to a variety of factors, including growing hostility towards Jewish students, a detachment from the values of ordinary Americans, and a lack of diversity in terms of political ideology. The rise of anti-Semitism on campuses has led to a congressional investigation and a new lawsuit, while the increasingly left-leaning faculty at these institutions has created a culture of groupthink. These problems are compounded by the fact that top universities have become detached from ordinary Americans and have grown flabby with cash. Meanwhile, the gap between elite institutions and the rest of the higher education sector has widened, with just 20 universities owning half of the $800 billion in endowments that American institutions have accrued. The article suggests that American universities' competitive edge is also being challenged by international rivals, particularly from China. Chinese universities now dominate rankings in subjects such as maths, computing, engineering, and physics. In addition, competition among countries to attract the world's smartest students and faculty is growing more severe. The article concludes that universities need to take action to address these issues before they lose the public's trust completely. This could include introducing more rigorous admissions policies, reducing bloat in administrative departments, and improving governance structures to provide better oversight. The article also calls for universities to promote diversity of political ideology among faculty and to defend academic freedom and freedom of speech on campus. 3 underwater data cables through the Red Sea are cut amid Houthi rebel attacks in the area. Associated Press. According to officials, 3 underwater cables, which provide internet and telecommunications around the world, have been cut in the Red Sea. The cause of the cuts is unknown, however there has been concern about the cables being targeted by the Houthi rebels, who describe their actions as an effort to pressure Israel to end its war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip. While global shipping has already been disrupted through the Red Sea, a crucial route for cargo and energy shipments from Asia and the Middle East to Europe, the sabotage of telecommunication lines could further escalate the months-long crisis. Why China's Red Sea mission is unlikely to stop Houthi shipping attacks. South China Morning Post. China recently sent a diplomat to Saudi Arabia and Oman in an attempt to address the Red Sea crisis caused by Houthi rebels. Despite China's reluctance to intervene further and risk its neutral position in the Israel-Gaza conflict, the diplomat had a message of supporting Yemen's legitimate government and pursuing a political settlement with the Houthi militants. China has a vested interest in the Red Sea crisis due to the impact on global shipping, specifically the transport of oil, gas, and commodities. China has also urged Iran to rein in the Houthi rebel group. However, analysts believe that China's involvement in the crisis is unlikely to yield any significant breakthroughs as Beijing wants to maintain a balanced approach and avoid being blamed for conspiring with the Houthis and Iran. China has long supported the exiled legitimate government of Yemen but also advocated for a peaceful resolution to the Yemen crisis. Beijing seeks to play the role of peacemaker in the Middle East while maintaining a low-profile stance unless its vital interests are compromised. That's all the news for today, folks. And what a mix we've had. From accusations of terrorism within the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, to allegations of sexual violence committed by Hamas, it's been a day of shocking revelations and international tensions. But let's not forget the lighter side of the news, like the Girl Scouts in Missouri who were told to stop their bracelet-making fundraiser for children in Gaza. I mean, who knew making bracelets could be so controversial? Now, let's dive into some analysis. The accusations made by Israel against the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees are certainly serious, but it's important to remember that no evidence has been provided to support these claims. It's a he said, she said situation that leaves us questioning who to believe. Similarly, the UN report suggesting that Hamas committed sexual violence during their attacks in Israel raises serious concerns, but the lack of victims coming forward complicates the situation. These allegations need to be thoroughly investigated to determine the truth. Moving on, we can't ignore the ongoing conflict in Israel and the efforts to secure a ceasefire. Vice President Kamala Harris has joined the chorus of voices calling for a 6-week ceasefire, emphasizing the need for humanitarian aid to reach Gaza. It's a complex situation with no easy solutions, but hopefully, all parties involved can find a way to end the violence and address the dire humanitarian conditions. Shifting gears, we turn our attention to American universities, where a host of issues threatens their competitive edge. From growing hostility towards Jewish students to a lack of political diversity among faculty, these institutions are facing some serious challenges. And let's not forget the rise of international rivals, particularly from China, who are dominating rankings in key subjects. American universities need to take action to address these issues and regain the public's trust. Finally, we have the Red Sea crisis caused by Houthi rebels and China's attempt to intervene. While China has a vested interest in resolving the crisis due to its impact on global shipping, its involvement is unlikely to yield significant breakthroughs. China wants to maintain a balanced approach and avoid being seen as conspiring with the Houthis and Iran. It's a delicate situation, and China is treading carefully. And with that, we wrap up today's news. I hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. Now, it's your turn. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any questions or opinions to share? I'm all ears. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.